Okay, it's 8 o'clock, and so we'll convene the meeting of the Franklin Redevelopment Commission and start off with a roll call. Brian Deppie, Paul Buning,
Here.
Richard Wertz,
Here.
Bob Deakins here, Drew Edwards, here, Christy Ott.
Here.
We have a quorum, and so the first item of business is the approval of the minutes from September 17, 2019.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, minutes are approved. Under old business, Krista's going to give us an update, I believe Krista is, on the sale of the Hughes auction building.
Yes, that has been completed, and the check, you will notice the $50,000 from the park board, I believe was deposited the 1st of November. So it's not reflected on any of your financial reports today because those are from September and October. It is reflected on your cash flow analysis in the fourth quarter. But I just wanted to let you all know that that's complete, and Jane, I think that's all done through your office, and we're all set.
Okay, any questions? If none, we'll move on to new business. Item A is the Brookhaven Drive Economic Development Agreement between and among the Redevelopment Commission, Board of Works, and the Linville family.
Yeah, so that's actually old business. This is, earlier in the year, you approved a resolution that authorized an exchange of ground with Linville's. They would be giving up the Brookhaven Drive property, and the city would be giving up, the city of Franklin, not the Redevelopment Commission, the city of Franklin would be giving up the east half of the drainage ditch property on Commerce Drive. The west half had been exchanged last year, now with the Linville, when we did Linville Way behind the new Shell building. And I don't know, blame me, I guess, but we didn't get the document signed, so I think we're here today to sign it. See if you have any questions about it. Once we have it signed, then we can get it to the courts and get it finalized, possibly this year.
Rob, what action do we need to take today?
I think I just need signatures.
Okay, so no approvals or anything?
Yeah, it's already been approved in the
Okay.
resolution.
All right, so, okay, we'll catch this and after we can.
It's,
Okay. All right.
Board of Works already signed
yeah, I
that.
don't know the answer to that. I don't believe it has.
No, they haven't.
We've
Get that
approved
out there
it,
next
we've
week.
approved it the same as you've approved it.
Yeah.
Just gotta get it signed. All
I'll
right,
make a motion to approve the economic development agreement between the city of Franklin, the Board of Works, and the Linvilles.
we need that. Okay. Is there a second for the motion? Second. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Two signs.
So,
Everybody gets to
I'm sorry,
sign.
no problems.
Rob, will I put that today's date on there, or will I put the date that it was originally approved?
On this agreement,
Should I put today's date?
I don't even have a date on there, so today's date's fine.
Okay.
I get coffee, it tastes like cherry coffee. Okay, next item is TIF district amendment to include personal property taxes for Energizer manufacturing.
As you probably know, Energizer Manufacturing Corporation has announced its intentions to locate within the new, what do we call that building? Sunbeam building, Sunbeam building in Franklin Tech Park. And last week received a favorable recommendation for a tax abatement. And their plan is to put equipment and other personal property in the building. The cost of that equipment is about $55 million. And the the idea with this request, or the idea with this capture would be that in addition to the real estate taxes that we are already capturing out there, we would pass some resolutions that would allow us to capture the incremental increase on the personal property taxes. In order to do that, we have to amend our economic development plan for the Franklin Tech Park, or create a new one. And I've reached out to Rick Hall, Barnes and Thornburg for help with this, because I think it's going to require Jeff Peters' analysis for the tax impact, and it becomes a project. But it's the four-step process that you've seen before, where I would present to you, probably in January, a declaratory resolution or an amendment to the existing declaratory resolution for the purpose of capturing that personal property TIF. It would then go to the planning commission for approval. It would then go to the city council for approval, and then it would come back to you for a confirmatory resolution with a public hearing. Because the abatement is 100%, we've got basically all year to get that done. It's 100% abatement in 2020. So that our effective date could become either January 1st of 2020 or January 1st of 2021. Does anybody have any questions about that? I don't know. I can't tell you what the expected revenues are going to be from that capture. I don't know if anybody's attempted to do that analysis yet, but.
No, I think it's hard to know because they haven't brought the equipment here yet, and then what that assessed value is gonna be of that equipment. I mean, I know they have record of what they paid for it, but that doesn't mean that's what it's gonna be assessed at.
Did they have a kind of an estimate last night of what the tax impact would be that they presented on the personal property? Somehow a number of $500,000.
It was, yeah, about
It was.
$500,000 a year once the abatement rolls off and it's in full repayment.
Okay. So we're actually changing how we're doing something, because typically we don't capture personal property.
In order to, right, so capturing personal property is a little different than real estate taxes, because in order to capture the personal property, you have to specifically designate who the taxpayer is that you're wanting to designate. And we don't normally do that. You don't have to do that for the real estate taxes. So in order to do that, we're going to have to specifically designate Energizer under this new four-step process. And it will take, it takes at least 60 days to get that done. So if we started in January, it would be done in mid-spring.
Did I not understand that they expect to be here in summer to fall of 2020 with the $55 million of new and used equipment?
58.
58?
Yeah.
This is a sizable amount,
It is,
and I
and
think we should move forward.
there are some, Mayor's gonna talk about why we need to do that.
Yeah, I just want to tell you the reasoning behind it. I don't know if you know, but 525, the road just east of there, is going to be rebuilt because of expansion with interstate warehousing. It's doubling in size. And there's also a developer that's wanting to build another building east of there along 525. And Eisen is looking to expand their building. So there's going to be a lot of expansion out there. We're getting ready to do, go to the council and talk about a $5 million sewer project to expand out there. And also Sunbeam Development Corporation, who did this building, that told us all along, once they fill this spot, that they already own the property across the street, Jim Black Road, that they're gonna want to expand and build another building there that's at least 500,000 square feet. And at some point, we're gonna have to rebuild Jim Black Road also. So there's a lot of expansion out there, and if you look at our TIF revenue that we have, there's not a lot there to support the road expansions and everything that we need to do. And also, I want to point out the analysis that Jeff Peters and that Rob did a great job of explaining what TIF does. Because everybody starts, the first thing is about our schools, which we all agree, but in the long run, the schools gained more assessed value than was taken away from the TIF. But we have to have some kind of a revenue stream to be able to keep up with the growth that we're going to see on the seed side. So that is the reason behind it.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for you on that.
Sure.
With regard to King Street, how far east have we agreed to take over from the state? Where does King Street stop and 44 begin?
Okay.
I know the state is planning on redoing the exits with some stoplights. Are we gonna have to fund a little bit of that?
If we go, we'll have to fund some of the turn lanes that's going to be needed. The stoplights, the state, we own right to the first exit there, or that's where we've taken over at.
So the at most west exit?
Yes.
Okay. So once you get under the
No, it'd
interstate,
be the most east, it'd be the exit east.
so we take everything to the east?
No, you're correct, west, I'm sorry. Yes, the west. Yeah, we take that over, everything east is theirs. They're working on 2022, I know that's a long way off, and hopefully we can speed that up. And as Mark explained yesterday to some of us, that maybe 2021, the stoplights at the exits, we can work on that. And we're also thinking somewhere, maybe 525, we're going to recommend that we do some stoplights there at that point. And I don't know if we'll be responsible for some of the stoplights or not.
I was just thinking that might be another funding source for that particular project also.
Correct. So,
The city council did approve both the real property and the personal property abatements last night.
yes. So, anything else you want to ask?
Rob, we extended that TIF district and we moved that bond out. I don't expect you to know this, but I'm just trying to get out of my head what that ultimate expiration date of that TIF will be.
So I can,
Yeah, that's not a very question.
I can get it to you.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Okay, so that's just more of an update then.
Well, I guess maybe, could we get a green light vote to have me move that forward?
Yeah, look for probably look for a motion and a second to do so.
I move to green light, Rob, move forward on an amendment for creation of a new declaratory resolution in order to gain personal property taxes for member transfer.
Does it make sense to do any other properties in conjunction with this, or is it just this one? I mean, I know that there are some things planned, but is it better to wait until we have, I mean, because of the timing and the length of the allocation area, or if we're wanting to do this for any additional projects, does it make sense to include those now or do those separately as they come along?
Are you saying we're looking to do the whole TIF area now?
For personal property?
Yeah.
Or just new projects as they come about?
Well, we can't do it until we know who the taxpayer is.
Okay. That answers that question.
On real property though, we can do it by real estate person.
Which, and I think
But I think we've got them captured.
you do, my only thing is the Tittman with their annexation, if we need to, could we include that as part of this process, so we don't have to come back and amend it later, since those parcels are being annexed, or it might just be something we need to think about, to make sure we get everything cleaned up while we're doing it.
No, I get that,
Okay.
Yeah, so let's think.
So you think about personal property on these other parcels?
Not necessarily, but like the Tittman, when they did their annexation, those parcels were not originally in the TIF, and so we need to capture those just even for real property.
Okay.
And then as some of those additional properties get annexed east of the tech park, we would want to add those as well, but there's, because of the annexation law and the census, there's kind of a timing issue. I just want to make sure that while we're doing the amendment process, we include everything we can, during this round of, save us from having to do it again.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay, so we have a motion for, that would authorize the attorney to move ahead with the legal work on this one particular matter. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor of approval of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Resolution, or new business, item C, resolution 2019-39, appropriating $295,500 for U.S. 31 TIF bond payments for 2020.
We're going to owe money on we borrowed money on the US 31 TIF bond last year, and we're going to owe interest and a little bit of principal next year. And that's $295,500. This would authorize the
And those are due first of, in January, so they were gonna be due before, I believe we would have an RDC meeting, and so we just wanted to make sure that this was approved in advance of that, so we weren't late on our very first bond payment.
This doesn't come out till January though?
It wouldn't, no. And this would come out of, my understanding is this would come out of the US 31
Correct.
TIF,
Oh.
and not our integrated TIF.
We had a little discussion before the meeting just regarding which entity actually has the final authority on approval of bills paid out of the bond proceeds. And I think, Rob, you indicated fairly certain that it's this body here that makes those, this approving body of all disbursements from the bond proceeds.
Correct.
So we'll have to make sure that we have all those properly approved at some point, so,
We may have to do some housekeeping, but
yeah, on that. So,
Well, I would make a resolution, for resolution 2019-39, appropriating $295,000 for the TIF bond payment for January of 2020 to be approved.
okay. Let me just stop real quick. Since this is a bond issue, is it like the other bond, we don't formally have to have public
Yes.
hearing, but we will do it in the spirit of openness,
correct.
transparency. Richard's motion is for appropriating $295,500 as it's shown there. Of course, typically what we do is we read by title only, and then we have a public hearing. So, Richard, I'm going to ask you to amend that.
To title only.
Okay. Got a second on that? Okay. Brian Deppie had a second on it. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And so now we'll conduct a public hearing. That's your chance to stand up and rah, or thumbs down.
So when we have invoices then for payment, those don't need to come through as a resolution, do they? They're
No.
just, okay, it's just,
They need the president's approval.
okay, just to make sure.
I do have a question. So that doesn't come out of the bond proceeds, correct? It just comes out of the TIF allocation area? Because there's funds in the TIF allocation area that can cover that.
Correct.
Okay, just want to clarify that.
You've got that in your worksheet too, don't you? Okay. so-
Yeah, I'll cover that under the financial reports.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and ask for approval of the resolution now. There you go, Richard.
Okay, make a motion to approve resolution 2019-39, appropriating $295,000 for the US 31 TIF bond payment in January of 2020.
Okay, have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Excuse me,
295.5.
5. Yeah. Sorry.
295.5.
Okay, we have a second by Paul Buning. Any discussion? Those in favor of approval of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and that's approved. Okay, moving into other business. Christie, you can go ahead and move ahead with this. Looks like we got September, October, November reports.
Yes,
We
so,
did miss a meeting last month.
right, we missed our meeting last month, and so I went ahead and included both September and October financial reports. Not a whole lot to report here. I mean, Mark and I are just working on the mayor cleaning up, which resolutions and that, because next month we'll need to work with clerk's office to encumber anything that carries over into the next year. So we're just working on cleaning those up. I don't really have a whole lot to report on the regular September financial report unless there's any questions. That's just basically updated to show you what was spent through each of those resolutions through the end of September. I did go ahead and include the US 31 TIF district financial report, and I thought I could do this monthly or I can do it quarterly, but this shows you the revenue that is in that account, what has been collected over the past now almost 2 years. And so there's $613,000 in that account. I'm sorry, that was the beginning balance plus what has been accrued over the last 2 years. So there's $1.1 million in that account, cash balance at the end of this year based on those same allocations. But what I did add at the bottom is, because we are starting to pay some invoices out of there, I wanted to show you that the starting amount of the bond was actually $10,138,786. And then $9,333,852 was invested so that we're accruing interest on that. And then the first disbursements were made, and that's just the total, but that's the total professional fees that were paid to all of the bond counsel, our counsel, Jeff Peters, all of those costs. The total is $123,947, and so those are the expenditures. And so next month, we have paid 3 invoices to Shrewsbury, and so on your next month report, I will have those invoices listed so that you can keep a running total of the exact balance of that bond. Is that helpful for you to see where we're at? And we haven't started paying anything on the US 31 actual corridor design, but I could also maybe subtotal those by project, so you would have amphitheater project at the top and then maybe the US 31 at the bottom with the subtotal, or I'll figure that out as we start paying those kind of invoices as well, but I think it makes a little bit of sense to keep those projects separate. But that way you'll see an accounting every month of what exactly has been spent. And then obviously in January, above, you'll see where we paid the 200 and what we just approved, that resolution, 295.5. That will go up here because that comes out of, not the bond proceeds, but that comes out of this $1.1 million cash balance. We'd also discussed, and I was going to cover this later on the cash flow, before the bond was approved and everything was finalized, we had a resolution authorizing $100,000 just to get started on the amphitheater design. So there's a portion of that contract with Shrewsbury and Crossroads. And what I think we should probably do is figure out a way to reimburse ourselves for that $100,000 out of the bond into our regular TIF control fund. So I'll have to work with Rob and Jane to see if there's a way to do that. But we have expended that $100,000, and it would be nice to get those funds back into the integrated TIF from the US 31 TIF. Any questions on that, or anything else that you want to see that isn't shown here? The October 2019 financial report, these have just been updated. There's really not anything exciting on here either. I mean, it's kind of just the run-of-the-mill. We still have our estimated December 18 pay 19 property taxes, and then I did follow up with Jane and with the assessor's office on the May 18K19 property taxes. That was a little bit lower than we thought it was, and so I wondered if there were any companies that maybe were appealing their assessed value, and that's why we were short about $400,000 of what our projections were, but there weren't any, so Jeff has looked at that, and it just has to do with the way the reassessments were done and the assessed value, so I was kind of hoping there was a different reason for that, but you can see the interest earned on deposits through the end of October is $33,668. That's also lower just because we don't have as much cash in the bank as we have had in the past years. And then what I was happy to see is the grant reimbursements have increased significantly. So these are projects that we've had matches with through NDOT or through the relinquishment funds, where those are starting to finally come back to us. So $309,000, 511 is what has been reimbursed back into our account from NDOT. So that's good to see. And then just below, everything's updated for what was spent through each resolution through the end of October. Questions? Okay. The next one.
Crystal, while we're here, is there any activity on the Shell building? It does look a lot better.
Yeah, so they're supposed to be finished by the end of November. We've had a couple meetings with Dana and the mayor and Bob and Redevelopment Construction and everything. All the materials are on site and they've been working every day, weather permitting, and the promise is to have that completely exterior and the contract with them finished by the end of November. We have also had some really great site visits at that property over the last month, and we do have 2 incentive offer letters out currently on that property, so just continuing to work those.
Okay, cash flow analysis.
So this, I'm gonna ask Mark to come up and go over a little bit of this. This was updated as recently as yesterday, so there are a couple projects on here that, I'll let Mark explain, but we had bids come in, and I'll let you take it from there. So this has been updated with those numbers. There is a handout, that you guys should have, looks like this, from Mark. If you want, that might help you as he explains this.
Good morning. As Krista said, we had 3 projects on the NDOT letting last Thursday. So the bids were opened. 2 of the bids came in actually less than the funded amount and the engineer's estimate for the project. The 3rd project, the Westview and West Jefferson Street roundabout, came in quite a bit higher. The reason for that is when the project was initially submitted for funding, the project did not include some of the decorative items in the roundabout itself and in the vicinity of the roundabout. So the cost for that increased over what was funded by the MPO fairly substantially. What I'm trying to do with the handout I provided you is to kind of condense it down to a simplified bottom line evaluation of where we stand on the 3 projects. So I've got them broken down into the 3 projects. The top one is the West Jeff Trail project, which, by the way, we actually put that on the NDOT letting back in May. It came in about $260,000 over the funded amount, so we backed off. We said we're not going to award it at this time. We'll couple that with the roundabout project and hopefully get better pricing for things like mobilization, maintenance, traffic, and some of the lump sum items that are included in the contracts. That did happen. We did get a better price on that trail project. And then the third project is the South Main Street project. So let's start at the top with the West Jeff Trail project. The top line on each project, what I've listed is the funding appropriated by the RDC for the project for both construction and inspection. So then we have, over at the right-hand side, we have a total for those appropriated funds. Because the roundabout project came in quite a bit higher than both the estimate and the funding, we approached the MPO about any possibility of additional funding. This is kind of late in their funding year to be able to have any available money. So the best they could do is basically shift money around so that the projects would be the top two projects are funded at 80% for construction on West Jeff Trail, 90% for construction on the roundabout, and then the South Main Street project, we always knew that there was going to be a higher participation level to the city because the project is for trails and drainage. We're including rebuilding the pavement as well. So our match is substantially higher. It's about a 40% match instead of a 20% match. So that was all programmed in. What the MPO is proposing to do is move all of the inspection funds into construction and then reallocate those funds to meet the 80% match, the 90% match, and then the 59% match on the South Main Street project. So what I've done is, based on the contractor bid, I've listed the federal percentage and then backed out in the next line the local 20% match for construction. Because the MPO is moving all of the inspection funds over to construction, I've listed 100% construction for the city. Over to the right-hand side, you can see the total for construction and inspection for the local match. Below that, I've showed either an increase, well, I've showed the increase or decrease as appropriate. So for the West Jeff Trail project, our local match is ultimately going to be $121,000 more than what was planned. And that's totally because we're paying 100% inspection. For the roundabout project, we're paying $157,000 more. Again, that's because of inspection, but most of the money that's being moved around is being moved into this project for construction. And then on the South Main Street project, we have a savings of $190,000. So our net increase for the three projects overall is $88,000. The total construction and inspection cost for these three projects is $5.95 million. So that increase, that overall increase is 1.5%. And in the whole scheme of things, it's pretty minor. Okay, now by moving inspection over into construction, what that does for us is it decreases the match, the construction match that we would have to pay up front from just under $2 million down to about $1.5 million. So that helps us with cash flow. Granted, we have to pay 100% of the inspection costs, but those are going to be staged over probably the next year and a half for each project. So that will also help a little bit with cash flow. And as I said, the total net increase is $88,000. Now I have had a conversation with Crossroad and let them know that they need to very, very closely watch the inspection costs, as I will be doing as well. That way we have a chance to realize some more savings on the project, or at least not have quite as much of an increase. The reason I'm presenting this, first of all, if there's any questions, please ask. because this is very confusing. I could have included information on the MPO spending amounts and that, like I said, I'm trying to distill this down to the, simplest bottom line numbers as I could.
Mark, what's the time frame on all these? You said a year and a half. So all three of these will be done by 2021?
The project should actually be done by the end of 2020.
All three?
But because you have project closeout, you have final construction record and so forth, they will certainly extend into 2021 calendar year for inspection invoices. But the project should be essentially done by the end of 2020. I would expect that construction on both South Main Street and the West Jeff Trail project to begin in March, maybe April. The roundabout will be constructed in June and July because the intersection will be closed down. So we need to do that during the school break next summer. I guess my reason for coming up here, number one, just to kind of give you an idea of where we stand on these three projects, but also, Rob, if we need to do any resolutions to move funds around to different projects, redistribute between the three projects, then I'd say we probably need to have that done at next month's meeting, because we'll have to pay the local matches on the three projects. As soon as the invoice comes in, we'll have 30 days to pay it. But I expect the invoice is probably early December.
We're gonna know who those payees are, so I could.
The payees end up,
Okay, so we can encumber if we need to.
yes. But I would expect that the local match, we pay up front, we pay the entire amount. So once we have a resolution that allows us to pay those funds and we have an invoice, I would say that we should have that done by the end of the year.
Kristen, when we're looking at the cash flow, the urban trail project shows that we're funding 267 in the fourth quarter. Is that this one out on West Jefferson Street? Is that the one?
Yes, that's the path project, so the trails along both sides of West Jefferson Street.
So that would be on this form here, that'd be the,
West Jeff Trail.
that first one?
Yep.
Yeah, the 260,518.86 would be the actual local match.
Then the next one is that West Roundabout. Where does that show up on this cash flow? Is that
That's the Westview Roundabout construction local match, 84,000.
how much?
84,000.
Is that in the fourth quarter this year, or is?
It's, part of it's been spent in the third quarter, and then the remainder was in the fourth quarter, 37,000.
About halfway through.
Halfway down?
Yeah, halfway down.
2019-10 is the resolution number, if that helps you find it.
Got it, okay.
And then down below, because I didn't know that we had that $100,000 is listed below under your projects under consideration, so I wanted to get that in the form of a resolution for you, but it's already on your cash flow, so at the very bottom under projects under consideration, Westview Roundabout project inspection, 90% reimbursed, 10% local match. It does say 100,000 in 2020, so that's reflected on your cash flow, but that's not until the second and third quarter of 2020.
So we've got a lot going on in this last quarter,
Yes.
which makes it fairly thin in the first quarter, but then after the second, once we get into the second quarter and the tax payments come in, we should be past all of that then.
Yep.
Okay.
I think we're gonna be, cash flow wise, I think, according to this, we're gonna be okay. We aren't gonna need to borrow anything from,
Last year, well, this year in
and we had
January,
that
yeah, we went to the council,
conversation that,
just give them a heads up that that might happen, but it doesn't appear that, well, it's not going to happen now. We haven't approved anything at this point on the FDC programming, have we, at this point? It's in there, as a line item, but it hasn't been.
it's been approved for this year, 300,000 for this
Okay,
year,
not
but not
next year.
anything for next year,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
And I think we were gonna wait until the first quarter to even begin discussions with the FTC on that, see where we were at.
Mark, this is outside of our authority, but I just gotta ask a question. On the South Main Street project, I know that there's gonna be a few people on the east side of the road that are gonna really be impacted, I think, probably more greatly when they put a trail down through there or a sidewalk. We met with all those folks.
We have met with everyone during the land acquisition process. Everyone is aware of exactly where the sidewalks are going to be. We actually realigned the roadway so it kind of bends a little bit to the west.
So on
Down near
the Lovell's property.
the Lovell's property, yeah. And we met with him extensively and actually made that change because it would have impacted him tremendously.
Would have been through his front porch, wouldn't it?
It would have been, the sidewalk would have been up against his front porch.
Yeah.
And
So the road basically is gonna get shifted just a little bit.
we moved it, I think he's gonna lose one or two trees, but a couple others will not be impacted. So the sidewalk will actually be to the west of where that tree line is in front of his house.
Okay, so I take it there, anything that's different is gonna kind of create a problem, but at least we've accommodated that concern. Yeah?
Yes, he was satisfied with
Good.
the outcome.
So all of these changes are reflected that Mark just discussed. I went ahead and updated those in your cash flow analysis yesterday. So this is the latest and greatest based on what was just presented to you. For those three projects, there were a couple other changes made as well that I want to point out. At the very bottom, we had discussed a refund from the FTC for it was about $32,000 that was not spent on the McDonald's truck parking lot. And we had subsequently discussed purchasing a portion of a property for a downtown dumpster location. And the FTC has used those funds to make that purchase. And so I don't know if that requires a formal action for us to not be refunded those dollars. They've been used for something else, but I wanted to bring that to your attention. I know we have discussed that in the past, and so it's reflected that way on this document.
So you're asking a question?
Yeah, I mean, Rob, do you think that we need to have a formal motion
Yeah,
to
to consent.
consent to that? I certainly hope it's all right, because it's been purchased.
Would you lay that out again on how we could do that so we can make a motion for it?
Sure, so there was an economic development agreement between the RDC and the FDC for the truck parking lot behind McDonald's near the interchange for the redesign and restriping and the new configuration to not allow trucks to park in that lot. And the project came in under budget. There was $32,000 that wasn't spent on that project. And the way the economic development agreement reads, that any money not spent on a project has to be refunded from the FDC back to the RDC. And so that had been showing, I hadn't refunded those dollars yet, I just hadn't written a check. And this other project came about where we had a downtown property owner willing to sell a portion of their property for a shared dumpster location that would allow multiple downtown property owners to share this enclosed dumpster location along our pedestrian alleys. And so this is Jim Abmeyer at the corner of, I call it the Artcraft Alley and the Elks Alley, where those two intersect. There's about 9 dumpsters there that we hope to condense down to 3, and then also put inside an enclosure. So as you're walking through that pedestrian alley, we've invested $250,000 in that alley, and you still have 9 dumpsters in the alley, and it's
Talking
not.
about the gravel area there.
Yes, so it would be concrete pad, and it would have a black opaque fenced enclosure, and then the dumpsters would be shared, and they just would be emptied more frequently, but there would be a shared dumpster location there. And so the Franklin Development Corporation agreed to help with that project and has purchased that property, which we will then deed over to the Board of Works. The FTC won't own, doesn't have any intention of keeping ownership of that property, but that will be owned by the Board of Works.
It seems to me we've talked about this.
We have.
I think you brought it up.
Several times.
I think that.
I just don't know that there's ever been a formal
Formal action.
action on it, and there probably should be.
Is anybody willing to take a stab at that?
So is this something that needs a resolution? Is this on our next meeting we should?
Well, it sounds like what she's saying is we should have got that money back before they spent it.
Yeah, but we should.
So we need to ratify their action. So I would move, I don't want to set a precedent by doing this, because I don't think the FTC necessarily should have done that without talking to us first. But, I mean, there's really not much we can do, and we were gonna do it anyway. So I would move to ratify the FTC's decision to purchase that piece of property and their utilization of the funds that should have come back to us.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Okay, any further discussion? I think it's good that we get it on record, that we've taken formal action to give a head nod to this thing.
It was really just a timing issue, and then our meeting last month was canceled, and so I won't make a habit of that for sure, but.
But the one thing is, we have, you have given the commission a heads up on this, and so it's not a surprise.
We have discussed it, and you'll notice too, on the projects under consideration, there was, the very first line is the downtown dumpster locations, quantity 2 and $70,000, and that was approved through resolution 19-14, but that, you'll see there's no dollar amount shown on your cash flow analysis for that, because the Board of Works has agreed that they will fund the actual enclosures. And so, 25,000. And so, that's really, I mean, that's a $50,000 savings, $45,000 savings, based on not paying for the enclosures, but paying for the property.
Okay, we have a motion in front of us for action. Any further discussion? Those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That motion's approved, so that kind of cleans that up.
Chris, just a clarification, now, the downtown dumpster, we will do away with that resolution?
Yeah, so it will expire at the end of this year, but for purposes of planning, I have it still listed on your cash flow, but you'll notice that that $70,000 is not shown anywhere that it's being spent in any of the quarters, so it's not being reduced out of your ending balance. That's why we use this document, because the other monthly report that I give assumes everything is being spent to the full amount. And this document, we can plug in the actual numbers and plan a whole lot more realistically of what is actually gonna be spent based on real-time numbers. I did add at the bottom, you'll see the US 31 improvement project, I mentioned that earlier, where we had authorized that $100,000, and so I anticipate us getting reimbursed for that maybe first quarter of 2020. So I went ahead and put that in first quarter of 2020, and then the sale of the 180 South Jackson Street, the auction barn, that will show up in your fourth quarter of 2019. That was paid to us beginning of November. So
Okay.
those changes have been made, and so it does look better. It does look a lot better, I feel like, at the bottom. With the first quarter of 2020 at one point was down in the $200,000 range, and it's back up to 601,000, so it's looking a lot better as we finalize and nail down all these numbers.
And that's even with the 400 grand less in assessed value.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Next item is the RDC calendar, proposed calendar for 2020.
And this is just informational. I don't know, we need to vote on it or not, but these are your regular meeting dates, and then this is what gets sent to the Daily Journal for publication.
Don't we, along with that, should we see what your vacation schedule looks like next year?
I'll try to work around it as best as I can.
Okay.
I will not be here for the March meeting, I can tell you that.
This doesn't pertain maybe there's, I guess it's RDC business, but I've been asked the question a number of times, so I'm gonna direct this to Mark. What's happening out there by the roundabout on the east side, the excavation work?
Dave O'Mara is installing some drainage pipe for us. That swale along the toe of the embankment of King Street has been a water problem for a long period of time, and NDOT never maintained it, so probably should have been addressed as part of the Jeff Street, King Street project. It wasn't. What they're doing is installing pipe along the roundabout, because we have such a narrow width at the bottom of the slope before you get to the property line. That allows you to have a flatter slope to carry more water. And then further to the west, we're also installing some pipe to connect into a storm pipe that then turns south. Between the two, it's going to be an open ditch, but by using pipe on each end, it allows us to increase the grade on the swale to 1%, which that's really about what you need to, as a minimum grade on a swale to get good drainage, so water doesn't stand in it.
You were having standing water there in the
Oh,
ditch?
yeah, there was a big area of cattails and other just, wet area type plants. Yeah, it's being paid for out of stormwater.
Okay, good. Okay. Yeah, we get asked about that a lot, but
There's
out on Facebook.
The quadrant between 144 and 44, there is a medical office building. American Health Network is building a new office building out there.
Okay. You're on the southwest corner.
Yes,
So that's where the roundabout is, the proposed roundabout will be in that area as well, won't it?
exactly, yes.
Okay.
They'll have a commercial entrance that the city is building the commercial driveway apron off of 144. NDOT, unless you actually have two different entrances that are pre-existing before a road project's done, they'll only build one to the property. So that's what we're building, and then the developer will take care of the driveway entrance off of 44.
Okay, one last question.
Okay.
In 21, we've got it budgeted to help with the funding of the roundabout there at Auburn and Auburn Drive and Commerce. Is that going to be a full roundabout, or is that going to be a partial, or, I know it's going to really help the trucks move north.
Yeah.
Be a full one? Okay. All right. That's really the next one is for, well, you got the Westview roundabout, and you've got,
Yeah, and then the Arvin Commerce, one after that would be
Graham
Commerce, and we've just submitted, or we're submitting a funding request for Graham and Earlywood.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else have anything they want to pick on Mark about? All right. Any public comments? Dana, anything?
Like Crystal said, we're continuing to work with the Shell building, and a lot of interest is continuing to grow in Franklin. Really good publicity from Energizer coming in, got a lot of interest on that. Moving forward.
Good stuff. Yeah, Mark, did you have something else?
I do. We're holding our final public open house for the bicycle and pedestrian master plan.
It's Wednesday night, isn't it?
That's, yes, tomorrow, 4 to 7 at East Hall.
4 to 7.
4 to 7, yes.
Okay, your wife has me in a meeting. Good part of that time, too.
That meeting, your meeting won't take that long.
Love to. Okay. All right. Anybody else have anything? Jay? Marty, you're gonna be taking baskets to schools for long, aren't you?
Got the winter market coming up 1st of December,
Okay.
at the holiday lighting,
Holiday lighting on the 6th or the 7th?
first Saturday, whatever.
December 7th.
December 7th, okay. All right, if there's no other business to come before the commission today, we're dismissed.